Britain's Premier Johnson had promised the British big trade deals after the EU exit, but now the US government is dampening these hopes. Global Britain still has to wait. The Brexit supporters had promised the people a trading nation like in the Empire. But nothing will happen so quickly with the corresponding agreements that Great Britain wanted to conclude with the EU and the United States. 4 years after the British vote on Brexit, no agreement is in sight. The American negotiator Robert Lighthizer told the British what the reality was last week. "You know how long it normally takes to negotiate such contracts," said the president's trade representative, referring to the November election. "In theory, you could arrange a mini deal, but it's supposed to be something big." And he added, "It is unrealistic to negotiate this before the election and also bring it to the Congress." Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his government are caught up in the harsh reality because the Brexit negotiations with the EU are also stuck. The preparatory rounds between the Americans and the British for a free trade agreement have been running since July 2017, the official talks since May this year. The Americans have formulated their negotiation goal clearly. They are concerned with better paid jobs in America and the growth of the US economy. And the British should meet the following requirements: full market access for the US and the UK, no hindrance due to regulatory requirements which, like the EU standards, go beyond the minimum set by the WTO, opening up the UK healthcare market for approval of American, and therefore more expensive, pharmaceuticals, opening up the UK market to American meat exports, making the sector more lenient than the EU requires, opening of the UK market in tenders for American companies. US President Donald Trump had warned Boris Johnson 6 months ago that this would only work if the British government did not agree to the conditions of the EU. "We want to trade with Britain," Trump said in November 2019, "but with a deal," and Trump means Johnson's political declaration with the EU on the future shape of mutual trade relations, "and certain aspects of this agreement, we cannot do it." Boris has to be careful. So if Johnson deals too much with the condition of Brussels in the context of a trade agreement with the EU, especially with a view to regulatory provisions, the so-called level playing field, this will prevent an agreement that would be interesting for the Americans. Specifically, this means the British may want to import chicken from the United States, but that is treated with chemicals in America to prevent health risks such as salmonella. For example, live chickens can be transported for 28 hours in the United States and not just 12 hours as in the EU. During this time, the risk of infection of the animals increases. However, the EU does not allow the import of this treated meat. If the British adhere to EU requirements, there would be an obstacle to negotiations with the Americans. And such problems exist in numerous areas, from seat belts for cars, to genetically modified meat and soybeans, to the labeling of food with the European E-numbers for food additives. And Johnson used to be little interested in these details. But now the British Prime Minister is in a dilemma. If London refuses to comply with the EU standards in the future in order to gain scope in negotiations with the Americans, the British risk free market access to the EU. It is not for nothing that the EU insists on its regulations. It has no interest in Britain positioning itself at the gates of the EU as a production location because it has obtained duty-free imports from other parts of the world. However, if the British government responds to the EU's demands, a trade agreement becomes uninteresting for the Americans. The American agreements with Mexico and Canada, USMCA, and Australia, the AUSFTA, have shown that these countries have had to meet the tough conditions in Washington. And the British celebrated special relationship with Washington doesn't help there. And if you want to know more about European politics from a German point of view, I put my next video right here in the end screen. Click and enjoy. I'll see you there. Viel Spaß!